네, 시청자 여러분 안녕하십니까? TKC 초대석 진행을 맡은 박채은입니다. 오늘 이 시간에는 아시안아메리칸연맹의 조앤유 사무총장님 모셨습니다. 반갑습니다.
감사합니다.
먼저 간단하게 자기소개 부탁드립니다.
네, 아시안아메리칸연맹 사무총장 한지 이제 10년 됐네요. 그 전에는 뉴욕 Immigration Coalition, Asian Americans for Equality, 거기서 한 26년 뉴욕에서 non-profit 생활을 하고요. 저 immigration story는 제가 9살 때 미국에 왔어요. 그러니까 솔직히 말해서 한국말 하는 건 9살 레벨밖에 안 됩니다. 그 대신에 우리 부모님들은 콜로라도에서 사시고요.
네.
그리고 아버님이 목회하시고 그리고 제가 뉴욕에 온 지 한 26년이 됐습니다.
그러면 이런 아시안 아메리칸들을 위해 일하신 지는 지금 얼마 정도 되신?
한 20년이 넘었죠?
굉장히 오래 하셨네요.
네.
그렇다면 이 아시안 아메리칸 연맹의 사무총장님으로 오늘 오셨으니까 이 단체에 대해서 소개를 좀 부탁드릴게요. 좀 어떤 미션을 갖고 설립된 단체인지 궁금합니다.
Sure. 요번 해가 우리 35th anniversary입니다. So it's a big deal for us. The Federation is probably one of the strongest nonprofit organizations serving the Asian American community. And when we say Asian American, it's not just Korean or Chinese, it's the Pan-Asian community, South Asian, Southeast Asian, Middle East. So we serve a lot of community members. So when we do any kind of work, everything is translated into 8 to 9 languages. We do policy work, we do small business assistance work, we work with about over 70 nonprofits, and now we're starting to go upstate to work with the nonprofit organizations. And a couple of the groups that you might know, KCS, KFSC, we do a lot of work with them. They're our member agencies. And our goal is that Asian Americans have been here for a very long time. There's a lot, we have contributed a lot to the economy, to the culture, to the city and state. Yet we are still very much invisible. And so we want to change policy. We want to change the dialogue that everybody's having about Asian Americans to say we deserve to be recognized, we deserve respect, and we deserve resources to be able to thrive here.
비단 이 한인들뿐 아니라 이 소수계들을 위한 목소리를 내는 단체라고 생각하면 되겠네요. 이번에 또 정신건강에 관련된 새로운 보고서 발표하셨는데요. 아시안의 정신건강 관련 보고서로는 최초라고 들었습니다. 어떤 목적으로 이 연구를 진행하게 되셨는지 좀 궁금합니다.
Mental health 그 이슈를 우리가 한 10년 동안 그거를 지켜보고 연구하고 엑스퍼트들하고 의논하고 그걸 많이 봤어요. 왜냐하면은 우리 커뮤니티에서 Korean community 아니고 the entire Asian community 뭐 혈압이 있으면은 병원에 가고 당뇨병이 있으면은 병원에 가고 그런데 mental illness가 있으면 mental health 문제가 있으면은 누구한테 가요? 그리고 우리 커뮤니티에서 그런 거에 대해서 솔직히 말해서 말을 안 하잖아요. 그래서 이게 참 그리고 COVID 때문에 everybody suffered. 그리고 또 anti-Asian hate 때문에 a lot of depression, anxiety가 그거를 우리가 많이 지켜봐서 리포트를 했습니다. 그래서 600 survey를 하고 focus group도 하고 14 non-profit organization 하고 앉아서 클라이언트들도 하고 말하고 survey하고 포커스 그룹 뭐 그런 거 다 같이 해서 서베이를 했는데 저도 그 리포트 보고 참 많이 놀랐어요.
그래요?
네.
그렇다면 이 놀라신 내용에 대해서 좀 새로 발견된 사실들 어떤 것들이 있었나요?
네. Asian 80% survey한 분들이 they have symptoms of depression. They have fatigue, they have insomnia, they have headache, they have lack of appetite. 다들 불안하시다고 그러고요. 또 우울하시다고 그러고 또 그런 manifestation이 이제 많이 이제 come to the surface 한 것 같아요. 그랬는데 45% of the people we surveyed said, I know I have something, but I don't know where to go for help. And so I think that was a real shock. When we talked to young people, they said, you know, we struggle at work because we have this thing called a model minority myth. Everybody thinks Asians do well. And so we have to deal with the stress. We also have, Asian Americans have a problem of 영원한 외국인이라고 그러죠. 그러니까 그거를 미국에서 3-4 generation을 살아도 언제 딴 사람들한테 볼 때는 우리는 외국인이다 그렇게 생각하는 그런 스트레스도 있고 religious discrimination 요새는 Muslim, Sikh community에서 많이 그런 discrimination이 있고 그리고 anti-Asian hate 때문에 그런 TV에서 violence를 보고 저 사람이 나같이 생겼구나 그런 프레셔를 받은 거를 알고 그게 이제 다 it's coming out physically. 그러니까 그런 거 그리고 또 during COVID, a lot of seniors suffered social isolation. You know, they told us, don't leave your house. It's not safe. So if you're a senior, you're used to going out and talking to your other seniors. Our elders suffered a lot. So, you know, we know that there's a problem. Even people who recognize that there's a problem, they don't know where to go for help. That was the biggest lesson for me. But what is the big lesson is this is something that our community never talks about. Never talks about. It is like some hidden shame. 교회 사람들한테 말하지 마, 동네 사람들한테 말하지 마, 이게 창피한 거야. But if you have high blood pressure, you get help for that. This is something that can be treated, but people don't talk about it. So I think everybody's suffering in silence right now. The other challenge is that I think everybody thinks Asians are rich, but that's not true. I think one in 3 live below the poverty line. So financially 넉넉하지 않은 분, 인슈런스 없는 분들은 they can't go get mental health. Mental health is expensive. And so we know that there isn't resources available to be able to help our community, people who are suffering. And that is the shock, but it is also 좀 답답한 것 같아요.
아까 이 보고서 결과를 보시고 놀랐다라고 말씀해 주셨는데 또 반대로 예측 가능했다 싶었던 부분들도 있었을까요? 뭐 저희가 겪는 뭐 인종적인 차별 이런 것들이라거나 그런 부분에서 충분히 어려울 수 있었겠다.
그러면 you know, I think all immigrants suffer from this, right? You are here. You know, I think about my own parents. You know, they came here 50 years ago, and when you're an immigrant, you give up everything in your home country, and you come here and you start over. That's a lot of pressure. That's a lot of stress. You have to learn the language. You have to get a job. You have to start over. That is a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. Many in our community, a lot of small business owners. During COVID, that was a lot of stress for them. And we know that not all the small businesses made it. Many closed. So how are they feeding their families? How are they surviving in this very, very expensive city? One of the things that people did say is they are very stressed out about the economy. New York City is very expensive. It's expensive to live here, and you know they're scrambling, they're struggling. And so the stress, the pressure, it's all getting to people.
그렇다면 이 도움을 구하기 어려운 이유가 실질적으로 이런 거에 있어서 뭐 예를 들어 한국어로 도움을 구할 수 있는 의사가 없다던가 그런 문제도 좀 있을까요?
그런 문제가 많죠. The barriers to accessing help, it's 언어 장벽, 문화적 편견, 인식 부족, 공급 부족. So with language access, you know, only 50% of the Asian community are fluent in English, which means half of them don't even know where to go get the resources. So when the Federation does any kind of advocacy work, everything is how many languages can you produce this in? We need to get people their information. The cultural stigma, we don't talk about mental health, but the solutions come from not this American method or Western method. It comes from understanding our culture, to be able to treat it in the culture that we know. There's also lack of awareness. People don't know where to go for help. So where do you go? And finally, we lack professionals, exactly what you said. We don't, Even if you want to go get help, where do you go? How do you find somebody might speak Korean, but they don't understand Korean culture. So I think those are the gaps. So they need to find somebody who speaks Korean and also is fluent in our culture to be able to provide a real solution for some of these problems.
언어적으로도 그렇지만 문화적으로도 좀 공감을 할 수 있어야 되겠네요.
네.
이런 어려움들을 겪는 이들은 어디에서 도움을 구할 수 있을까요?
도움은 I think the first place. Well, first of all, I want to say the governor, 우리 주지사, 시장 두 분이 다 priority가 mental health. 이번에 이게 priority mental health. So I feel really good that I've been trying to work on this for many years. And I thought, oh, we're right. This is a problem because it's a hidden problem that we're not talking about. So I think the best place always for anybody in our community, first of all, we need community education. And I think we need to be able to tell people it's okay to feel depressed. It's okay to feel sad. I will tell you that during COVID, most of the nonprofit staff member felt so much stress and sadness because we're going to work every day and we're watching something horrible happen to our community. So if you didn't feel anything, I think something was wrong with you, right? We all felt depressed. There were days when I was so depressed I couldn't get out of bed. And I think these are things that we have to openly acknowledge and discuss. But the best place to go to get information is nonprofit organizations because people trust them. That is their job to help you. And so that is the first place that most people go to say, I think I have a problem, can you help me? And sometimes people don't want to go to a nonprofit and say, oh my gosh, I have a problem, I need to talk about this. Sometimes they go and they say, I want to apply for some programs. Is there some kind of a arts program you have? Or is there like a knitting club I can go to? And in those settings, it's natural to talk about some of these things. So we think the anchor, always the anchor in Asian American community, in nonprofit community is always going to be with the nonprofit organizations.
그럼 이 방송을 보시고 좀 도움을 구하고 싶다 하시는 분들이 이 아시안 아메리칸 연맹에도 조금 도움의 손길을 청할 수도 있을까요?
So we have a website. So if you go to the website and if you type in, there are drop-down menus. And so if you say, I speak Korean, I live in this neighborhood, and this is insurance that I have, you will have a list of people you can call and therapists. But there are lots of groups in our community that do mental health work. KCS has a mental health clinic. KFSC does this programming. And I think because of the awareness, and one of the things that all nonprofits, our members are acknowledging is this is a crisis. Everybody has some type of assistance. And sometimes the assistance isn't to sit one-on-one with a therapist. Sometimes it is just being with people to enjoy something together. Sometimes that's a form of therapy and mental wellness. And so, one example I heard, like KCS has an art therapy program. So they come, they do art together, and there's somebody expert there. They will ask guided questions. So how are you feeling? So you lead them down the road to discussing. The other nonprofit organization that we work with is Bangladeshi community in the Bronx. They have a women's walking club. So they get together and they walk around the neighborhood. They talk about some of the issues. What are you seeing? How are the kids? What is happening in our community? So it gives a natural opportunity for people to talk about what they're feeling. And I think, there are lots of people who will need one-on-one counseling, but for many, this is a really great outlet to be able to realize that what you're dealing with, you are not alone.
그렇다면 이런 연구 결과들을 좀 어떻게 활용하실 계획이신가요?
So for us, we are an advocacy organization. When people ask me, what is your job? I don't say I'm the Asian American Federation 사무총장. I always say I'm an advocate. My job is to advocate for my community because I know that there are a lot of gaps and that I know we are invisible. So what I want to do with this, first of all, we need funding. We have identified a problem, But if we don't have resources, there's no solution. And the solution isn't with traditional Western type of therapy. 85% of the mental health experts in this country are white, which means what happens to not just the Asian community, Black, Latino, Asian community. Where do we go find the help? Where do we find people who understand our culture, who can talk about this with us? So this year, we are asking for $44 million from the state. We are doing that with the Black, Latino communities as well. We want to work together because it is a shared challenge and a shared struggle that we have. So hopefully we can get some support. And we want to fund the nonprofit organization to be able to work on this. But we also want to create a public education campaign to help people understand what you're feeling isn't just you. There's a lot of people feeling that. We don't want people to suffer in isolation. And we want to make sure that when people are asking for help, help is available. We need to do huge lift of community education. But the other thing also is, a lot of young people in our community, they should enter this field. Social worker, counselor, being a therapist. It's a great opportunity. And so if you speak Korean, if you understand Korean culture, and if you're thinking, I think I might be interested in entering the medical profession, why not this field? Because there is a huge demand, and it really is this new field where you can be very helpful to your community.
마지막으로 이 연맹에서 굉장히 오랫동안 활동하시면서 좀 가장 보람을 느꼈던 순간이 있는지 개인적으로 좀 궁금합니다.
So on this, one of the things I think about mental health is we all know Vilma Carey, who was the Filipino woman who was on her way to church who was attacked. So it's been 3 years now, and her attacker got sentenced a couple weeks ago. And one thing that Vilma said is, even now I struggle with anxiety, being outside, right? So we know that this lingers on. And so it's really important for us to talk about this stuff. But for me, what is so fulfilling is that we get to talk about things that we get to shed light on things that nobody wants to talk about. That people are suffering, our community is suffering. We have a lot of need, but we're not talking about it. So our job is really to be able to say, we need to talk about this. There's a lot of interest in mental health now. Everybody wants to work on mental health. A lot of, the mayor, the governor, everybody wants to talk about mental health. It's really important. And for me, it's, as 사무총장, it is very fulfilling that we get to push this issue. We get to talk about the growth of the Asian American community. We get to talk about, people say, Asians, it's hard to support you because there are so many languages, there are so many populations. But at the Federation, we can say, no, we are one community, the Pan-Asian community, and together we are 18% of the population. We have a research team that puts all the information out there. There's a lot of myths about our community, misunderstandings about our community. People say you are wealthy because you're the model minority. That's not true. There's a lot of poverty. There's language gaps. Asian American seniors are the fastest growing senior population, and they are the poorest. So when we present information to the community, it empowers the community, but it also informs the policymakers to be able to make good policy that helps our community, that helps our community, to be honest, to get the respect that we deserve.
오늘 좋은 말씀 나눠주셔서 감사합니다.
감사합니다.
감사합니다. TKC 초대석 오늘은 여기까지입니다. 시청해주신 여러분 고맙습니다.